I want to thank all of you for your prayers and encouraging cards and all the things that I've been getting. It's pretty amazing that, I've been kind of overwhelmed, to be honest with you. Old students reaching out, person from the church I pastored over 20 years ago. It's been pretty interesting. On Wednesday nights, we have been going through the first part of each of the epistles to the churches and just kind of seeing what Paul said to those. And kind of, I was thinking a lot about what do you talk about, and didn't want to start really anything new because I'm going to be out a few weeks. And so I said, well, let's finish this because I got one book left. And so I said, well, let's just do that. And so it was, we did 1 Thessalonians Wednesday night, and today we're going to do 2 Thessalonians. And just kind of unpack that and look and see what Paul had to say to the church in Thessalonica. And again, I think it'll be encouraging to us as we just see again what he says to these dear saints that are in Thessalonica. So if you want to turn in your scriptures to 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, verse 3, then we'll get started. Paul writes this, we ought always to thank God for you, brothers and sisters, and rightly so, because your faith is growing more and more, and the love of all of you have for one another is increasing. Therefore, among God's churches, we boast about your perseverance and faith in all the persecutions and trials that you are enduring. All this is evidence that God's judgment is right, and as a result, you will be counted worthy of the kingdom of God for which you are suffering. God is just. He will pay back trouble to those who trouble you and give relief to you who are troubled, and to us as well. This will happen when the Lord Jesus is revealed from heaven in blazing fire with the powerful angels, and he will punish those who do not know God and do not obey the gospel of our Lord Jesus. They will be punished with everlasting. I have water, I just forgot to bring it up here. Sorry. They will be punished with everlasting destruction and shut out from the presence of the Lord and from the glory of his might on the day he comes to be glorified in his holy people and to be marveled at among all those who have believed. This includes you because you believed our testimony to you. With this in mind, we constantly pray for you that our God may make you worthy of his calling and that by his power he may bring to fruition your every desire to goodness and your every deed prompted by faith. We pray this so that the name of our Lord Jesus may be glorified in you and you in him according to the grace of our God and the Lord Jesus Christ. Let's pray together. Father God, again, I am so thankful for Paul's words to the church. It's his second letter to them, and he's just talking to them as someone that just cares so deeply about what's happening there. And he's pointing out some things. And so, God, today as we kind of unpack those things and we think about those things, I pray that we would see how they have an impact on our lives. Because it's not just a letter written to a church 2,000 years ago. It's literally Scripture, so that means it has meaning for today. And so, God, as we open our hearts, as we think about what you want to say to us, I'm just confident that you're going to speak into each one of us exactly what we need. You are going to be I am, like we talked about last week. Everything you need us to be, you are. And so whatever the people in this congregation need today, it's not going to be based on me because they'd be sadly disappointed. It's based on you. It's who you are. And so God, speak into their souls, speak into their hearts so that they might hear and really get what you have for them today. It's in your name we pray. Amen. So he's written this, book to the church, and excuse me. And as often, he talks about some things right away. He's thanking God for them. He's thanking God for them for a couple of different reasons. First of all, he's thanking God for them because of their faith is growing more and more. Now, I don't know about you, but there's something cool about watching, I remember when Brian and Kimberly were little and just watching them grow and just seeing how they progress. I remember when we had Drew and Kenya first, and just to see them grow, because they both came to us when they were really small. In fact, I remember Kenya started walking when she was like 10 months old. So she's been walking a long time. I don't think she liked crawling, so she just started walking. And I remember she was really small, and I remember I'd start to put her down, and people were like, no, you can't do that. And then she'd take running off right by him, you know. And so it was just funny to see but it was just so fun to watch them grow. And I think that's what Paul's saying. As important as that physical growth is, it's even more important to have spiritual growth, faith growth, that you see your faith increasing, that you see your faith becoming deeper, that you rely more and more on him instead of on your own situation, that he becomes your default instead of calling a bunch of friends about what's going on. He becomes the one you go to first. And so I think Paul is just rejoicing in that in the same way that we can rejoice as we see people grow. And he's doing that in their faith. But he not only says that, he goes on to say that the love you have for each other is increasing. Now that's quite a testimony. Because although people are different, people haven't changed, right? Sometimes people are just hard to get along with. And sometimes that person is me. I was not having my best moments last night. I probably need to call my two grandkids up and say, no, I got a little short with you a couple of times. But I was pretty tired. You know, I got all the excuses you want. But the truth of the matter is I wasn't. I wasn't who I needed to be. And I wasn't loving them the way they needed it. And so what does it look like when a group of people really care about each other, when they really love each other? I mean, they say it this way. I mean, Jesus said this: they'll know you are my followers because of the love you have for each other. He didn't say it was because you jumped through certain hoops. He didn't say because you did this or that or whatever. He says because you have love for each other. Because Jesus knows how hard that is. I mean, guys and ladies, I'm not going to make you do testimony time or confessional, but the truth of the matter is, my wife's sitting back there. I love her more and more every day, but she gets on my nerves sometimes. I am just telling you. And I guarantee. Okay. Well, my mom's here too, so I got it. But I know I get on her nerves. And we really care about each other in a way that nobody else on earth I care about like that. Just imagine someone sitting across the pew from you that, you like them, you've talked a little bit, you think it's, and they say stuff and you're just like, what a dope. And so this idea of loving people, one of my devotions this week was that verse I love that says, love your neighbor, love your enemies. It's no big deal to love people that love you. And I'm like, oh. Because he's right. It's right. People that like you, that's easy to get along with them. They're all Steelers fans, Cardinal fans, all that. You get along, you enjoy the same stuff. Those are easy people. It's the people that when they walk into the room, you go, and I know you got people like that, so I won't be lying. The second they don't have to open their mouth. They don't have to do anything. They walk into the room and you just sense it inside your soul. And you're praying it down, but man, it's because, and sometimes what's really bad for me is I don't even remember why I don't like them. I just know there's something about them that just, See, those are the people we're called to love. And that's what's happening here. I guarantee you, they're seeing love that's supernatural love. That it's not love based on what we can do. It's love based on what God does through us. And that's what we're called to be and to do. And the really cool thing about some things that happen in this church, I think we're seeing that. I think we're seeing people loving each other. Doesn't mean you agree with everything that comes out of their mouth. I don't even agree with everything that comes out of my mouth sometimes. It's about loving people because God loved you. Not because they deserve it. I don't deserve to be loved by Vicky. She loves me because God loves her, and vice versa. So we see that, and he goes on to talk about the boasting about how they persevere and through persecutions and trials. And so we've got this church that's just growing in their faith, growing in their love for one another, and they're enduring horrendous persecution. And it goes on. And these next verses, I'll be honest, it's not the part of the, I don't like these devotional verses because they're hard. But yet there does come, as my kind of title says, you do reap what you sow. And that's what he's telling this church. Because of what you've done, the evidence of God is right. And as a result, you will be counted worthy of the kingdom of God because of what the church has done. So they're reaping what they sowed. But he goes on to say, God is just and he will pay back trouble to those who have troubled you. And he goes on, and then it even says, let's say it, he will punish those who do not know God and do not obey the gospel of our Lord Jesus. And you may say, man, that's harsh. And it would be if they had not been given opportunity. Paul talks about that. Paul talks about all of creation is a testimony of God. I love reading some doctors, and they just talk about the intricacies of the human hand or other parts of our body, and it's just an evidence of God.
Amen to that.
It's an evidence of God of how the whole world is. There's just the created world is just an evidence. And then they've also oftentimes had the spoken word at some level. And so that would be extremely harsh if God had not given them an opportunity to make a different choice. And in some ways, like I said a couple weeks ago, in some ways, excuse me, God is honoring them as people because he's honoring their choice. He's not making them follow him. He could. I believe, absolutely, right now, boom, he could do that. But he wants people to come to him because they choose him. They choose to love him. One of my students years ago, I was getting ready to do their wedding, and she said something that I've actually put it in weddings before because it's just such a cool statement. She said, one of the greatest things about marriage is that of all the world, John, that was her husband's name, has chosen me. Isn't that cool? I don't know if you've thought about that or not, but of all the people he could have chosen, he chose me. And that's what love is. Love is about choosing someone. Loving God is about choosing God. It's not about a God that's up there making you jump through hoops, hoping you get to heaven sometimes. It's about a God that says, I love you. I sent my son to demonstrate my love to you. All I'm asking is you respond in that love. And if you choose not to, okay. But there's consequences to those choices. And it's not just consequences in the end when we hear about it. It's consequences now. Because when you're going through what I'm getting ready to go through, there's a different level. I've been in those hospital rooms with people that don't have a faith. And I'm just telling you, the conversation is distinctly different. You don't have a purpose. I mean, you may have a job and you may have an okay family and you may have all that, but there's nothing driving you to say, I want to live for something bigger than myself. And that something bigger is Jesus. He gives you that divine purpose. No matter what occupation you have, farmer, accountant, lawyer, it doesn't matter. And so that's what he's talking about here. You reap what you sow. And if you've sown what this Thessalonica church has sown, then you're good. In fact, you can be ready for a party. On the other hand, if you've chosen a different way, I mean, God's not up there mad at you. I'm sure. In fact, I think he's heartbroken. He's absolutely heartbroken because people have chosen something different. He's heartbroken because he sees that their life could have more meaning and fullness and just be more, as the Greek word says, Zoe. I mean, that's life. And instead they've chosen something else. Sometimes I get mad at myself because I choose a hard way instead of an easy way. Y'all ever done that? I mean, instead of choosing the easy way, listen to somebody else or, watch a YouTube video, whatever I needed to do, I choose my own way, and it's not fun. And I see that sometimes with my kids. And I just want to go, your life I know you think it's restrictions. I know you think it's rules. I know you think it's us getting on you. But the truth of the matter is, if you just did it, your life would be easier. And then God says, Gene, if you listen to yourself parent, you might get better at just following me too. And then he's absolutely right. And so that's what happens here, and there'll be marvel at his glory because of what he's done. And then last, Paul has some specific prayers for these people. First of all, he prays that our God may make you worthy of his calling. Now listen to that. That our God may make you worthy of our calling. What is he asking you to do in that equation? The proper answer is nothing. That God may make you worthy of his calling. God is about trying to work in you so that you live a life that is worthy of the calling. I've said this sometimes to my kids, and God said it to me many times, is you're living less than what God wants you to live. Let's forget about the sin. Let's forget about the disobedience. Let's forget about all that. You're choosing to be less than what God has called you to be. And I got to tell you right now, when I think of sin that way, I'm like, oh my. Because he has a calling on our lives. He didn't just have you come to this earth because, he needed a few more people to make 7 billion. There's a reason you're here. And he's waiting for you to engage that. He's waiting for you to respond to him in such a way that you can actually live out that calling. And there's going to be lots of stuff along the way that's going to try to drag you away. And the question is, are you going to let it? And it's not the first time it's happened to people. I mean, good grief, we've heard all kinds of testimony. I think wasn't it Billy Graham's son that kind of went sideways for quite a while and then kind of came back. Now I see what he's doing. I mean, it happens to a lot of different people. But are you ever, ever, ever going to step into the place God has for you? And it may not be a great big thing. Remember, we looked at Joseph for a long time. Anyway, no. But we did. Because I wanted you to see that here's a kid that had no idea what his life was supposed to be about. And he ended up setting up the children of Israel in order so that the Messiah that saved the whole world could come out. He had no idea. He had no idea what he's doing. He was just trying to be faithful in every moment. And the question is, for you and for me, is that what we're doing? Is that what we're doing? And then he goes on to talk about that by his power he may bring to fruition your desire for goodness. Isn't that a great statement? I love that statement. Bring to fruition your desire for goodness. I think that's something I'm going to begin praying for us. That he just bring, that it start happening, that it become ripe, this idea of how we can be good in this neighborhood. I love the party we're planning. I love the things we're doing with kids' night out and the way women are getting together. That's awesome. I know guys are already getting together, shooting things, not just things. Clay pigeons, thank you. Got to be careful how you say that now. But more than I know what you all want more than anything is you just want a place that where goodness reigns, where God's goodness reigns. Where your teachers aren't going to school wondering what might happen today. Where other workers, you know all the list. What would that look like? And I know that you all have a desire for that. So my prayer is going to be the same as Paul's, is that he may power, that by his power he may bring to fruition your every desire for goodness. To see good things happen in your community. And he goes on to say, and that your every deed would be prompted by faith. That you just believe God could do it. That you might just, people might say, well, you really think this is going to work? And you say, man, I don't know, but I got faith God's going to move. I love it. I love the honesty of the people working with the food pantry, you know. They don't know if it's going to work. But they're saying, God put this on our heart, and we're going to do it. We can't not do it. Is there anything in your life you can't not do? That's great English, but, you know. I mean, there ought to be some things in your life you have to do them. You have to. That you go to bed at night, it doesn't let you go. It's kind of like my never-ending book. I mean, it's finally, you know, I was told I need to work on it a little bit more, which I understood. And so that's what I hope we'll do as I recover a little bit. Maybe get to work on that some. But it became this thing inside me. I don't even know why. It's not like it's this revelatory, like, whoa, it's going to change the world. I mean, I hope it helps some people. But for whatever reason, I could never get rid of that. And I still remember sitting in Panera in Jefferson City as I typed out the last sentence and hit the period. And there was just such a flood of relief that after way too long, about 17 years, I finally hit the period. Now I got work to do on and all that kind of stuff. It may never amount to anything. That doesn't matter. What matters is by faith, I stepped into something I'd never done before. I'm trying to do that. And that's what I love seeing about what some people here are doing. And I pray it just continues to expand. That every deed would be by faith. And then he goes on to say at the very end why he's praying. We pray this, he says so that, but because is basically the same thing. The name of our Lord Jesus may be glorified in you, the church, and you in him. That's what it's all about. It's not about people knowing, oh, Grandview, oh, yeah. No, it's not about that. It's about them saying, yeah, Jesus. It's about Jesus. I told you when I first got the news of on that Monday after I got the news of what was going on inside me, and I don't know if you remember what I said, but I said, oh man, because I just preached on Philippians 4, be anxious for nothing, with everything in prayer and supplication, make your request be known to God, and the peace of God which surpasses all understanding will guard your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus. I left out a few words, but that's pretty close. And I remember the first thought I had was, I've got to actually live out one of my sermons. I just had to. And very closely after that, I had the sensing that whatever happens, I want to glorify God in every moment of this journey. I don't know if it goes well, it goes bad. All that matters to me is that when they're doing these tests and they're doing this and they're moving me when I don't want them to, and they're making that in all those situations, I somehow find a way to glorify God. That's my prayer. In fact, I appreciate your prayers for healing and all that kind of stuff, but I ask you to pray for me more than anything to glorify God in absolutely everything that's going to happen. Because that's all that matters. If I get better and I've been a total jerkwad at all the hospital staff, what good is that? If they cheer when I leave the hospital because they're finally getting rid of me. No, I don't want, no. As my coworkers had to pick up some slack and all the things that had to happen. As my family has to put up with me and go get me drinks of water or whatever else. And I want in that moment to make sure I'm glorifying God. That's why last night I was frustrated. Yeah, I was tired and I was ready to go home and I was ready to do a lot of stuff, but I don't think I glorified God. In fact, I know I didn't. I think if you talk to my little guys, Josiah and David, they would say, yeah, Grandpa was kind of grumpy last night. And so, that's the call we have. To be worthy of His calling. That desire for goodness would come to fruition with His power. That every deed would be by faith, but more than anything, that everything we do, food pantry, parents' night out, ladies getting together, guys shooting things across the sky, whatever it is, it all glorifies God. And if it doesn't, then we are literally wasting our time. And I don't know about you, but due to recent events, my time is a little more precious than it used to be, maybe. And I don't want to waste any more. Let's pray. Father God in heaven, thank you for just who you are. Thank you for being a God that you do the heavy lifting, as my friend says. We just have to allow you to do that. All we really bring to the table is a couple of fishes and a couple of loaves, and you multiply those to whatever it needs to be. But God, we got to bring what we have. And so in all the areas we've talked about, I pray by faith we would bring what we have. I pray by faith we would begin to really have a love for each other. Not that we agree on every little thing, but we have a genuine caring for each other. And people sense that. God, that's what we want to see happen. God, we give this to you because we want to see you glorified. And so as we sing, God, I pray that we would reflect on what you've done in our lives, what you said to us today, maybe through our quiet time, maybe through Sunday school, maybe through, a song we sung. I know, His well with my soul always hits me. Through the message, through the Scripture, we give this time to you, not as a time to get ready to head out for the rest of the day, but as a time to really reflect on who you are and what you've done. And God, if we have any decision, anything we need to talk about, God, we pray that we would just be obedient to you. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Friends, please stand if you would. Hymnals to 417, 417. Jesus is tenderly calling.
Jesus is tenderly calling you home, calling today, calling today. I am the calling today. Hey there.
We want to join the church.
Hallelujah.
A letter from Harrisburg Christian Church.
Okay.
And I've heard some sermons in my time, but you surpass them all, as it says.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very nice of you. Thank you. This is exciting.
Yes, it is.
I didn't even, I come in, and I just thought, oh, what a great people. They're members, but so we're so thankful. Let me pray for us. God, I thank you so much for the Vaughns and then just being willing to just feel led, to put their lives here, to use their gifts here, to serve through here. And God, we are excited for them, and we thank you for them. They've been such an encouragement. And I just pray for them as they now become official, that you would just continue to nurture them, that we'd be the church that they need us to be. But more than anything, that we would just help them point them to you, because you're the God they always need. And so, God, we thank you and we praise you. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Now, I'm sure there's going to be some people that want to say things, so you can sit here if you want, or there, but if you can get him to move.
See, we don't do things for you.
Yeah, let's have a seat. Calling today, Jesus is calling, is tenderly calling today. Amen. Okay, y'all may be seated. Obviously, the Vaughns have come up and they want to become members of the church, and that's so exciting. And I said, well, you fooled me. I thought you already were. Because they were here before me. And so, but we're so excited about that. I know you are. So after we get all done, they'll just step up here with them. And have they been assigned a deacon yet? Do you know?
No, we'll take care of that.
Okay, well, I'm assigning you for today, and you can stand right here with them and welcome them in. How's that sound? Okay, well, go ahead now. We'll do our other stuff.
I would like to say one thing. That church that Pastor Gene preached about, you are it. And I'm not saying that to, in any way diminish that you've had over the years or anything like that. But we felt loved and just the care that you've shown since we've been coming. And I just thank God for His church, and like He said, the gates of hell will not prevail against these kind of churches. God bless you.
Amen. Thank you.